Hey, what's up everybody? Rob here from Ram Studio Comics. Welcome back. So in today's video, I'm drawing Cable from the X-Men, and I want to touch on why I think it's important to have a series of sketchbooks. So this actually came up in a live stream that we just did, and the live stream was going good until the chat box window stopped working. But we weren't talking about this. We had already talked about this a little bit, but I just thought it would make for a good topic to cover because I've been thinking about it more as I added this new sketchbook in. So let me talk to you first about the type of sketchbook it is. It's a spiral sketchbook by Master's Touch. I believe it's a Hobby Lobby brand, pretty sure. Really good quality sketch pad. 80-pound paper, and how many sheets are in this sucker? 80 sheets. So nice heavy sheets. One of the things I like is a lot of the sketchbooks I've used, like as I start to draw, and I'm real heavy-handed and I rest my hand on the page a lot. Normally the pages start to rip out for some of the cheaper ones that I've purchased. This one's actually holding up really well. Not one page out of the 10, 15, 20 sketches, wherever I'm at in this book, are ripping out. So that's cool. But the importance of having these sketch pads is, it's so beneficial to you as an artist, because if you get in this habit like I do, where you start drawing on loose sheets of paper, for one, you have a hard time organizing them. Okay, so it looks like at any given time a bomb went off in my studio. And so organization becomes really tricky. A linear perspective or a timeline type perspective becomes pretty tricky, where obviously with the sketch pad, it's all right there in front of you. And I think that's really important because you're able to look back at your work and say, wow, I was doing something really good, or maybe I need to improve upon this thing, but also map that against where you're at in your life. So sometimes you might look at some work and go, wow, I look like I was getting really inspired in that area of my work. And then you can look back at if you got the dates and times, you can look back at other areas in your life and go, what was I doing there? Maybe I was taking more time off. Maybe I was vacationing. Perfect example, I was taking a trip to the Dominican last November, and I drew a picture of Spidey, one of my favorite pictures of Spidey to this day. Now, it wasn't traditional. It was on my iPad, but at the same time, the reason why that resonates so much with me is I can connect that memory of that sketch to being on a plane, because obviously I'm not always on planes, so or maybe it's not obvious to you, to me it's obvious. So I was able to remember that quite distinctly. So now every time I see that picture, I remember being on a plane, fearing for my life. No, but anyways, but what I'm saying about sketch pads is they're very important in that regard of looking back at certain areas of your life. Now, think of it more or less like a visual diary. That's the way I tend to think of these things, because one of the things that happens for me is I can look back at almost any picture and be, kind of get this nostalgic type feeling. Okay. Now generally that's more prevalent if it's a really inspiring, a really impressive piece, something I can look at and go, wow, I feel like I just kind of leveled up on that drawing. Like I feel like everything kind of went right on that piece. Or maybe it's a really bad piece of art and I remember it for that reason as well. But generally it's associated with those times when I felt like I was really in the zone, really doing something that I was inspired by. And again, you attach that memory to it and that nostalgia. And I think it's really, just fun to do, fun to look back at. So the other thing is this, we kind of talked about dating the work. So I remember somebody in the live stream said something like, I always forget to date my work. And I thought that was interesting because I always date my work, but I almost never put the month. And I've been thinking about doing this for a while. I need to just start doing it. And it doesn't necessarily have to be like, you draw in the actual date with the month and the day or nothing like that. You can even kind of hide it in there. Like I remember listening to a podcast with Todd McFarlane, and he was talking about how he would hide spiders in the various Spider-Man covers. And I thought that was so cool. Like, obviously sharing that with people and now they can look for it. But even just doing that for yourself, like putting certain things in there that are kind of notes to where you're at in their life or the date or any number of things, you could really play into that. But you're definitely going to remember it then. You're definitely going to associate that to a memory. And again, probably even a feeling of nostalgia as to how you were feeling and thinking at that time. So lots of cool ways you could really take advantage of this. But the main thing is, if you don't really keep sketchbooks, you don't get to benefit from a lot of these. Now you can still do a lot of stuff just on your loose sheets of paper and date it and stuff like that and try to keep track of them. But sketchbooks are just, again, a nice way to flip through it and really know where you're at and where you were improving and what you were thinking about at that time. I also think it's a great thing to show to editors. You could do the same thing with page work. You could have one sketchbook for all your page work. You could have one sketchbook for all your pinups, one for your studies. And that's pretty much what I have right now. I have one for my studying and like just randomized thought process and ideas, just randomized sketches. I go to that sketch pad and I just doodle. I don't think about what I'm going to put down. I just have fun with it. Maybe it sparks an idea. Maybe it doesn't. It's not about that. It's just about not even worrying about the quality of the content, just putting stuff down, getting in the habit of just drawing any and everything. Then I have my other sketchbook, the one that you see here, where I literally stop what I'm doing. I think of an idea. I even rough sketch it on a few loose sheets of paper or my cheaper sketch pad, whatever, because by the time I get here, I just want there to be a little bit more of a quality and a rendering to what I'm going to do. And to do that, I need more of a focus. I need more of a clear concept. So generally, you're going to get better work every time you do that anyways. But again, I like having that sketch pad where I do whatever, whenever, and then I have the other one when I'm ready to sit down and focus. That's just me. I don't know if that's anything that you want to try or not, but it's just something that I do. So at any rate, these sketch pads can be very powerful, and later on in life, they can really be valuable as well. Like I've seen so many sketch pads by other artists that I admire, and when they start to share it later on, it's, people like just, they want it badly. It's very sought after. Like if I could get a hold of any copies of sketchbooks or sketch pads or whatever from people like, Silvestri or McFarlane or any of their best sketches, and maybe even some of their not so best sketches, to see their pains and labor of love, like, things that they drew out that weren't the greatest, which I would still be entirely impressed with, obviously, based upon who they are and how good they are, I guess. But it's nice to see that. Like one of the books that I bought was The Devil's in the Details by Todd McFarlane. And what I like most about that book was he didn't just share his success stories. So he had a bunch of his older sketches, a bunch of his letters to Marvel, getting turned down, trying to get in there. And it showed his grit, how much he really tried and how much he really had to try, that he wasn't just this immediate success story. And some of his old sketches were, far from where he's at now. Like there was a big change in his art style and his ability by just boatloads. And I love seeing that because, and I want everybody to see that, because it basically shows you like, hey, if you're not that good right now, don't worry, you can get better. It really fights that argument that people always say like, oh, you're just born with immense amounts of talent. Here's somebody that if you look at his work now and his achievements now, you would say he was just always ultra talented. And I would say even if you looked at his old work, you'd think that, but there's a huge difference as to what he was able to achieve by sheer perseverance and trial and error, and he shows that, which is really neat. So don't waste the opportunity. Make sure to dedicate to a sketchbook. Again, it'll give you something later on that you can share with others, a mapping and a blueprint of everything you've accomplished. If nothing else, it'll be a really good visual diary for you later on in life. But I think that you'll see that it's worth a lot more than that. It's definitely worth the effort to dedicate to it, hopefully daily. So good luck with your art. I thank you for the support of this channel. More content is on the way. As always, keep drawing, keep having fun, and bye for now.